The question is, can it be done? Can the CBI be truly liberated, and how is that going to work? That's the question that we're asking tonight. Joining us on the program this evening from the Congress party, we have Rajya Sabha MP Manishankar Iyer, from the BJP spokesperson Meenakshi Lekhi. Jay Panda of the BJD joins us this evening. We have Kiran Bedi in the studio with us. Also the former Additional Solicitor General of India, Mr. Amrendra Sharan, is with us. And also joining us tonight, our commentator Aarti Jairath. Let me first ask Mr. Iyer. Mr. Iyer, I come to the point that I was making with Sunil as well. As we see the government making one defense after another on this CBI issue, everyone seems to be caught up in your legal, fine tuning. It was a draft report we saw, not a final one. There is a relationship between the government and the CBI. But what about the issues of propriety and morality? Are those not above anything else?
Nidhi, I need to make a preliminary point that I was told that I was to come onto your program to discuss Sushma Swaraj's letter. And it's a matter of astonishment to me that the subject has been changed without my being informed.
That was never the case, Mr. Iyer. The subject was always on the independence of the CBI. So I don't know why you were misinformed.
I'm sorry. I have completely different messages from you saying that it deals with Sushma Swaraj. Anyway, now that I'm here to discuss a subject that I'm simply not competent to discuss, let me say that insofar as the case before the Supreme Court is concerned, I certainly do not wish to jump the gun on the Supreme Court. And it is for the Supreme Court to make a determination as to whether technicalities are being resorted to or whether there was a breach of propriety, and if so, by whom. And I certainly do not want to prejudge an issue which is before qualified judges. Regarding your substantive question as to whether the CBI can be made independent, in the last 65 years, we have an investigative agency that has always been part of the government machinery. And yet, I think it is true to say that a lot of public opinion in India is exercised over the extent of its independence or autonomy. And therefore, this certainly is a question that can be reflected upon, and perhaps reflected upon even more in the light of whatever observations or strictures or punishments as may be issued by the Supreme Court after it has heard all sides in court on the issues that are before them.
Do you honestly not believe the time has come to kickstart that process of actually making the CBI an independent body? Because we've seen this debate taking place when the Lokpal debate was going on. But can it be delayed any longer? Doesn't this case show exactly the reason why it needs to be done sooner rather than later? And in fact, the version of the Lokpal bill that the cabinet has cleared earlier this year is far, far diluted from what the original bill was. So, in effect, it shows that the government doesn't want to let go of control of the investigating agency.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that, I'm saying that no government of India has wanted to endow the CBI with complete autonomy. And we've had, in the course of the last 20 years, a panoply of governments. It began a little while earlier with Morarji Desai. We had VP Singh's government, we had Chandrasekhar's government, we had Devegowda's government, we had Gujaral's government, we had Vajpayee Mark I, Vajpayee Mark II, Vajpayee Mark III, and therefore there has been institutionally a belief that the premier investigative agency of the government should be with the government. Now many more concerns have been expressed and many more points of view have been also expressed. And we have a specific case here which is before the Supreme Court. And I do believe that in the light of whatever comes out now, their government, whichever government it is, will have to seriously rethink whether the institutional arrangements so far would not need to be modified, and perhaps modified drastically.
Okay, my question though is whether it is genuinely a wake-up call, Kiran Bedi, or are you still skeptical? Because one point that Mr. Iyer makes, which is correct, is that no government, whoever has been in power, even when the BJP was in power, there was no serious attempt to give the CBI independence and autonomy. So, is there any political will to do this? And or you know, we just have to depend on the court and see how it liberates it?
I think it's now becoming the court will. It's a judicial will now. It's an issue of not political will, because political will has never existed for the last 65 years. CBI has been a tool with the central government, just as state police is a tool with the state governments. The state police is being used by the state governments to Twitter or tweak, let's say, Twitter's always in my head, is tweak the status reports. Can you beat it? On our top cop discussions this time, even the police officers have been saying it's not just a question of CBI. Even the state police offers a status report to the home secretaries, they clear it, and then the case diaries are written and fudged again. This is what many police officers have been saying on our top cop conversation, saying it's CBI is the tool of the central government, just as state police is a tool of the state governments. And same thing is happening. State status reports are being vetted by the home secretaries and the political executives. So therefore, I don't see a political will coming in at all. Today, it's going to be judicial will. And I think that is a turning point of this country. If finally the Supreme Court uses the gavel, finally, what it wants as a political, professional independence, it can come. Because you have an institution which has already been created of the select committee cleared, even if it's diluted. I tell you, if even that Lokpal had come, you would have had the Lokpal as a firewall between the government and the CBI. You would have had a firewall. In fact, the government is lost out. If it had come up with this by November, December, or even this March session earlier, you would not have, government of India would not have.
So you're kissing that bill goodbye. You don't think that bill is going to happen now? Well, clearly
it could still come. You still have 1 year.
Parliament's not functioning. Yeah,
but you still have the next session. Hopefully, the elections are a year away if they don't come in earlier.
So let me ask Jay Panda. Jay, do you think there is a political will to step up, at least by opposition parties, to put pressure on the government, at least hopefully when Parliament is able to have a discussion on this, that this Lokpal bill needs to go through in whatever form it is right now? And do you think it's good enough in the form that it's in? Because there are serious dilutions by the cabinet to the original one.
You know, the Lokpal bill, which collapsed in spectacular fashion some months ago, was exactly when these issues had come to the top of the agenda, both in the legislative arena as well as in the media and for the country at large. And yet you saw that on the issue of the independence of the Lokpal and the independence of the CBI is where the whole process broke down. So obviously that significant pressure still did not succeed then. And I agree with what Kiran Bedi is saying, that it has now gone into the realm of the judiciary. And although it's a little embarrassing that we can't resolve such issues in our legislature or in our executive, but then the judiciary always has been the last resort, and perhaps again it will be the last resort. But what has happened now is pretty much the last straw, because if you hear the comments that the bench has been making about this whole the shenanigans that have been going on, I think it leaves nothing to the imagination. But I think the government is clinging on to some last hope that maybe the Supreme Court will hold short of implementing its threat of liberating the CBI.